Fellow primates, this is the grumpy old mechanic again, out in the woods, messing around on skis. This civilization that we have, the one that put men on the moon, made it possible for us in the surf class to ski, is under enormous threat. The primary threat, of course, is the Republican Party, but a close second, and very closely related, is what Isaac Asimov called the cult of ignorance. The notion that my ignorance is as good as your expertise. Now we have a problem with which authorities we should trust. And the flat earthers, the anti-vaxxers, the magaloons will always say, do your own research, and then usually point you to some dodgy website. There is an enormous body of scientific research out there, peer-reviewed by people who spent decades studying the subject, building on the expertise of tens of thousands of people that went before. But most of this is very difficult to access and understand. There's not really a way that an ordinary citizen can establish whether or not seismic tomography works, whether epidemiology, virology, and all of these disciplines are accurate. But there is one aspect of science that is accessible to what flat earthers call the Zetetic method. Do your own research, find it out for yourself. And that is astronomy. Astronomy makes predictions which are easily observable. You can go out in the night sky and see where Jupiter and Saturn are. They've been predicted for centuries. And it is possible for an ordinary person to find out whether or not the current model of the solar system and the universe itself is reasonably accurate. The first step is to find out if the Earth is round and approximately how big it is. This is fairly easy to do. Go to some long beach. There are a couple in Washington and Oregon that would work. That has a prominent rock at the far end. You go there, pace off the distance to the horizon, and run it through any of a number of horizon calculators that are available on the internet. The second way would be to use the Al-Biruni method with a theodolite, find the distance to a horizon, run that through any of the number of calculators that are there. You next would want to establish somewhat the size of the weight of the Earth and satellites. You can do this by observing transits of the moon and the sun by the ISS. These are easily available on a number of websites, very predictable. There was supposed to be one today near me. Too cloudy, obviously, to see it. The next step would be to establish the distance to the moon. For this, all you have to do is find a friend who bounces ham radio signals off the moon, take a stopwatch, and establish that the accepted distance to the moon is fairly accurate. Now, of course, being a flat earther, conspiracy theorist, you're going to think that the established numbers for the speed of light are fake, so you have to establish those yourself. This is, again, fairly easily done with hardware store materials. Look up Fizeau apparatus and reproduce it. Now you're going to have to establish the size of the solar system. And again, this is relatively easy to do. You observe eclipses of Jupiter's moons, use Ole Romer's method of establishing the speed of light in the 17th century and simply reverse that. The last step would be to establish rough distance to the stars. There are many consumer-grade telescopes easily available that are better than the early 1800s establishment of the parallax of nearby stars. You can do this yourself, or you could consult the local astronomy club and find this out. Now, there's no way, of course, that a flat earther is going to go through these steps to establish the trustworthiness of the scientific method of scientists in general. But their refusal to do these things is clear evidence that they are wrong. Again, most of what we know, we have to take on authority. There's no way I can test the octane level in my gasoline, the hardness of a bolt that I buy for a bike repair, and there's of course no way I can trust what, other than trust, establish what a black hole looks like. But I hope that this sort of thinking will enable people to get more of a trust in the overall scientific method. I would suggest people go to the science floor of their local university library, browse through it a while, see what you find. Adios.